Good morning. Welcome to the North Chapel. My name's Kathy Estemborski. I'll be the service coordinator today. And our pastor, Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley, will be delivering our reflection today. A few announcements before we start. If you're new to the North Chapel or visiting today, if you could please sign the guest book that's in the back of the church. And we still are practicing COVID precautions in the sanctuary and remaining masked, except if you come up to do joys or concerns, it's okay to take your mask down for that. But we do have an exciting update that we're resuming coffee hour today. And at this point, we're not having food yet, but we'll be really glad to be able to gather together downstairs in the social hall. Masks will be optional down in the social hall. And this coffee hour is CYOC, which means clean your own cup afterwards. So there'll be a big sink full of water to take care of that after, if you could. And also a reminder that the stewardship drive is underway, and you may have received a letter at home. There are also cards in the pews where you can make your pledge, and we're very grateful for your support. Today there is the meeting for newcomers, which will be at 11:30 in the library. Yeah?
We said don't wait till 11:30.
Okay.
Go straight there.
Straight after the service in the library. And there will be, today's topic is the driving energy of North Chapel, and there will be a light lunch and childcare if needed. And please remember to turn off your cell phones. And I think Deb, you want to?
Okay, I know it seems early, but we already have our wreaths for our wreath sale. There is no rush. We have lots of them. But if you want to prepay for one, you can do that downstairs. There will be two people taking the orders, Catherine and Barbara. You can take one home today if you want, if you pay for it. And if you want, you can pre-order one and pay for it. Not the last chance. There will be every Sunday. Thanks.
Thank you. Our opening words today are by Laura Horton Ludwig. For what shall we give thanks? The wheel of the year is turned again. Once more, the Thanksgiving season has arrived. How shall we sing our song of gratitude now? For what shall we give thanks? For this moment, for friends near and far, for our breath, for love, for courage and clarity, for strength, for laughter, for beauty, for the tables around which we gather, for the food we enjoy with friends, seasoned with love and memory, for the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky, for the trees who have seen so much and stand still and proud, stretching themselves to the sky, for the bright voices of children, for the wisdom of elders, for actions that bless the world, for hard work that makes a difference, for music and art and celebration, for generosity, for compassion, for endurance, for joy, for hope. For all these things, we give thanks as we worship together. We'll now have a time for meditation.
Hi, I wanted to share a poem that I wrote this summer, in the heat of summer, in the deep of summer. The summer lessened stream. I sit on a stone by a summer lessened stream of less water and more exposed boulders, totems of midsummer stones, gentled by moss and springing ferns. A shady spot, relieving morning heat as I read, the world is burning. But not here, not yet, by this stream pool's shade-cooled water. Enough for a water strider to cast its shadow on sparkling, submerged, banded schist, skating through the dark space made by a human form over it, a forest as open to me as to this little skimmer, to whom I whisper, my only wisdom is to sit and attend the variations of a stream, its strings, oboes, and a flute, a thrush's notes descending downward to me through hemlock's darkness, where I forget for these moments my eventual burning. In no hurry, my dog and I have stepped off the path to sit beside a stream that knows sunlight reflected on a mossy stone and ferns that sway as if there is a breeze. In some brief, unseen spirit's breath I don't feel on the cheek, I turn to being stream and channel, not staying or going, flowing.
Good morning. And good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Today is Sunday, November the 20th, and the title of this morning's reflection is Sacred Conversations Continued. I think it's really about what I'm going to call the apple pie of forgiveness. This is not an advertisement. Sometimes we just don't realize how much weight we're actually carrying in handbags and in suitcases, in push carts and in wheelbarrows. Sometimes it's like there are invisible backpacks that we don't even know that we're carrying. Backpacks that get so filled up and so terribly weighted down, and backpacks that get so heavy with all of the things that we really need, that gets so burdensome because of all of the things we really need. And it gets so heavy with the things that we really need that we actually, it gets heavy with things that we don't even need at all. And get this is the kicker, and I wanna be sensitive. I wanna be mindful to those of us who are actually having this experience. I don't wanna speak for them, but I do want to publicly voice what has been behaving like a private conversation. The kicker in all of this is that some of us don't even know that we're carrying burdensome, heavy, invisible backpacks on our shoulders. Hold on. It's a little funny, right? It's almost like some of us don't even realize the gravity of it all. Behaving as if when we ignore the gravity, that the gravity goes away, or that we can defy it, or that we can somehow resist. Apparently, none of us can really see our own invisible backpacks. We can only really see the invisible backpacks of other people. Of course, I don't really know. I can't speak about this firsthand. I can't speak from experience about this. I don't have direct knowledge myself because I'm one of the lucky ones. I don't carry an invisible backpack on my shoulders. As you can clearly see, I'm free. And this is because I have an intentional practice that allows me to escape such things. I don't experience the gravity of the world like normal people do. I don't experience such heavy things that weigh others down. Oh, hold on. I know it's a little bit crazy, right? I want to stay with this analogy for a moment. I want to stay with the metaphor because it's really important for lucky people like me. Maybe you are one of them as well. It's really important for those of us who do not carry heavy backpacks on our shoulders to stand in solidarity with those who do. And furthermore, and this is the part that's almost unbelievable, we have to stay super compassionate and remain tender and kind and even empathetic, because most people who shoulder all of that weight in invisible backpacks don't even know they're carrying them. They don't even know they're carrying the baggage day after day. Some people. Wait, hold on. It's a little funny, right? The last thing I'll say on this is that it is a super sensitive and challenging subject, and something that we need to think deeply about. The things we don't really need to carry at all can also weigh us down. The things we need to carry are burdensome in our packs, and they weigh more or less the same. If you're one of those people who isn't free from the terrible burdens of the world these days, if you are feeling weak or overtired, or you just can't imagine why, you may be carrying around one of these invisible, burdensome backpacks. And if this is you, if I'm describing your experience, give me a call, because I'd love to help you out. Give me a call on my cell. It's on your orders of service. And don't be embarrassed if this is happening to you. It could happen to any of us. Take it from me, I know. When life presents its little challenges, we shoulder them at first, and in the short term, it works out just fine. The challenge is overcome, and the problems are resolved or they go away, and we benefit from shouldering it, from carrying the weight ourselves, because our lives return to normal in a timely fashion, and we get over whatever issue was going on without losing our step. When life presents its challenges, and these challenges go on for a while, what we shoulder at first slowly begins to affect our posture. The invisible backpack becomes heavier and heavier over time, and we resent it. The heavy pack starts to injure our bodies. Even if we have that strap, you know, the one that all the backpacks have these days, the one that lets you displace some of the weight from your shoulders onto your hips. And do you know what I mean? Wait, hold on. Once again, I am not speaking from my own experience. As you can clearly see, I am not wearing an invisible backpack. I am free. When life presents its challenges, and these challenges go on for a while, the invisible backpack that some of us carry unwittingly becomes heavier and heavier, and we may not realize it. We may just accept the weight unconsciously, and we may come to think that that weight is normal, because carrying such weight has become the norm for most of us. Not me, but maybe some of you. Most of us carry that weight, and few of us know that we are doing it. Rick Maston wrote a poem that I love. It doesn't fit here precisely, but I want to share it with you anyway. It's short. It's called The Homesick Snail. He writes, "The homesick snail goes slithering down his silver track, looking for the very thing he carries on his back." It sort of fits, because the homesick snail is unaware of what he's carrying. It doesn't fit entirely, though, because the snail longs for what he is carrying. I don't know that we long for the weight that we bear in the world these days. So that's the energy of it. That's the whole tragedy of it, the odyssey of it, the fruitless and endless search for that which is right here in our hands. Hold on a minute. No one of us can clearly see all the weight that we are carrying. But when you trust someone enough, when you love someone enough, whatever that person is carrying becomes fairly visible. It's not always obvious, but it's noticeable if we look. It's ridiculous sometimes because things can get so heavy. And it's worse if we are strong, and it's worse if we are stoic, we the rugged individualists, Northern New England types. Because we are so proud, because we pretend that the burden is light, or even better, we pretend that the burden isn't there. I have colleagues in Framingham, in Boston area. One colleague in particular named Aaron Stockwell, he's pretty awesome. He has a great ear and a great mind for poetry. The last time I saw him, he shared a poem with me called "It's the Season I Often Mistake" by a woman named Ada Limon. I believe that this is a reading poem as opposed to a speaking one. So I will recite the title of the poem as if it were actually its first line, so we can experience it as one's eye would see it on the page. It is the season I often mistake birds for leaves and leaves for birds. The tawny, yellow mulberry leaves are always goldfinches tumbling across a lawn like extreme elation. The last of the maroon crabapple ovates are song sparrows that tremble all at once. And today, just when I could not stand myself any longer, a group of field sparrows that were actually field sparrows flew up into the bare branches of the hackberry, and I almost collapsed. Leaves reattached themselves to the tree like strong spell of reversal. What else did I expect? What good is accuracy amidst the perpetual scattering that unspools the world? I didn't know what ovates were, so I had to look up the word. An ovate is a member of an order of Welsh bards recognized at Eisteddfod. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The etymology of the word says that they were soothsayers or foretellers of the future, but I didn't know what Eisteddfod was. So I had to look up that word too, and I learned that Eisteddfod is a competitive festival of music and poetry in Wales. And then I had to read the poem again once I had everything defined and sussed out. I have been unspooled by what has been happening in the world. Perhaps some of us, perhaps all of us have. Amidst this shattering viral catastrophe that has stolen our breathing and stolen our smiling faces and stolen our laughter and muffled our song and stolen even time from the past 2 years. When we first began this journey together and profoundly apart from one another, I would bring my guitar with me into this very room to preach. Into this incredibly empty room, I needed another life force to keep me company because I felt so incredibly alone and so scared and so sad, and I was afraid to show it. I was angry that COVID-19 had become so politicized. I was far more angry than I dared express to any of you from this free pulpit. But I promise you, as far as I'm aware, I regret that choice not at all. I choose not to lead with my anxiety or with my fear. Every minister within my circle chose to do the same thing. And we were all exhausted because we changed away from who we once were. We had to change away from who we were because who we were simply did not exist anymore. So I made a deal with the God that I recognized. I said, Holy One, humbly, as my teacher taught me to do. I said, Holy One, I am terrified. I love these people so very much. Thank you for all you've done. It's March now, March of 2020. Guide me through till Christmas and I will take it from there. And then Christmas came and we were doing okay. And that's when I got anxious. Actually, that's when I first admitted to myself how anxious I was. That's when things started getting heavy and my denial started wearing off. That was when the novelty of the resistance wore thin and wore out. Last Sunday morning, we asked what conversations changed the world, and we talked about ancient Archimedes, and he's the one who said, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I will move the world." This Sunday, we enter in. We engage with one another about what matters. We might not change the world today, but we might just change ourselves. Can we go there lightly? Can we shed our heavy packs that we carry and put the spring back in our step, even as winter is fast approaching? Can we fall gently like new snow upon the rooftops of the world and melt and slide and curl and freeze in spectacular and beautiful ways? Can we ride the waves in style as they turn us upside down? Can we hang 10? Can we hang a negative 10 like snowboard surfers? My questions are these. What are your feelings about the pandemic? How do you feel about wearing masks? As a community, we may not be ready to make immediate changes, not with the holidays coming right away, but how are we adjusting? How are we adjusting to the burdens that weigh us down, sometimes without our knowing it? How is it that we are dealing with our baggage? So in this pack, a bunch of things. It's a can of Pepsi. There's some oats that I use to eat in the morning. It's kind of a comfort thing that I do for myself. There's a can of ginger ale. I bought these really huge, like, flats of soda. You know, those you kind of can buy them 36 at a time in the big stores. I bought them because there's a sound that just lets me reset. Simple girl. I brought this Bose speaker so that I can be in different places and listen to the news without it coming through my cell phone speakers, which actually annoy my ears and bother my ears. So this is the speaker that the timbre or the sound color is tough enough in this speaker so that I can hear the music and enjoy it. I've had this bag of chips for a very long time. These are chips made from beans. They're terrible. But they're good if you eat them with cheese. So keep some cheese with me. This is my chalice that was given to me by a friend of mine in St. Paul, Minnesota, upon ordination. So I think of Ginny Allen and her husband Craig, who has my birthday, we're both born on the same day, and their son Nick and their daughter Catherine, who I met when she was 12, precocious little 12-year-old, and she came up and she just started playing with my hair. You know, she's very comfortable with me. And I needed to tell her, I was like, I don't want to teach you that it's okay to walk up to random black people and start playing with their hair. Okay? Because one of them will turn and, give you a new perspective. It is not a welcome feeling. And she said, why? And I said, because of racism. And she said, what do you mean by racism? And I was like, oh my God. What kind of 12-year-old And then she said that because of that, you don't want people to touch your hair. And I was like, well, people are sensitive about it. And then she thought for a moment, and she reached out and she grabbed my hair. Awesome kid. Inside of the chalice is Onion, who I have lots to learn about. And then there are these sesame snacks that are too salty to eat, so I buy a lot of them, and then it takes me a month to go through them. And by the time I get to the end, if I've kept them in a human place, they're kind of gummy and disgusting. Then there's King Arthur pancake style mix, which I eat because the pancakes are delicious and I seem like a better cook than I am. And I've discovered that it really matters if you wait 10 minutes after you mix everything together. And I also brought some elderberry infused maple syrup because life is sweet. It's from Vermont. You guys know where Vermont is? Then I got to the stuff that really brings me comfort. Applesauce. Applesauce. More applesauce. More applesauce. And finally, you okay? There's a line from James Taylor. He says, "We have seen it before in times of great sorrow. Human compassion will flow from a well that has long run dry." Now, we don't know how to do this. And there have been leaders who have been putting their shoulders to the wind for 2 years to try to create a house that's safe enough to survive. We haven't had a major event in this church, touch wood, thank God. And it's harder when things are going well to appreciate how important it is that we took the precautions that we take. It's important to speak our mind and to speak our sorrow. It's important to share our differences of opinion. It's important to know that there's no one in the room who doesn't want peace and beauty and what we had once, casually. And we're not there. I hate to say that, but we are not there. There is a very serious situation that we're in, and we are struggling with it with such courage and such dignity, and it feels bad sometimes. So if you can, look around you for the things that bring comfort, the things that remind you who you are and what you value. Look around at one another and find energy in the commonality, find energy in the differences. Some of my friends, I have friends who feel differently about all of these masking things. And I have to work really hard to find ways in which we all connect. My friends at home, with whom I was in a rock band in the early 1980s, do not support the political candidates that I believe in, do not believe in the same things that I believe in, do not have the same appreciation of the disease or vaccination even. And I had to go all the way back to Huey Lewis and the News, a rock and roll band from the 80s, to remember how much I love them regardless of what they believe. How we connect is so important now, and we can find that. It's not that hard and it's not that far away. But it's important to express what we're feeling so we know what we're feeling and we can communicate with one another, and we will find a good way forward, and that way forward will emerge. I don't know that we should expect to see it, and there is no power that can create it. But we are that power, and we will create it when the time is right. I believe that. I believe that that's so. May it be. Blessed be. And amen.